Okay, so my goal for us today is to make a very simple art journal page. Um, I want to try and keep it as straightforward and simple as possible so that you can learn something new, but also come out with some kind of nearly finished or finished piece that you can then either continue working on or you can try to kind of replicate. So you've got some sort of skills and learn some new things. So we'll try and keep it as straightforward as possible. If you go into your app, Procreate, or Claudia's using Adobe Fresco, I don't know how it looks for you, Claudia, but in Procreate you get this gallery page, and that has got all your canvases on that you've worked on. So you're going to go up to the cross on the top right hand corner, and you've got you will have you obviously you won't have what I've got here because I've got some of my own that I've set up here, these canvases, but you will have a few to choose from. Then the top one is screen size, which is obviously the size of the screen. That's what size your canvas will be. Or you can go to this plus. I'll just show you there. At the top where it says new canvas on the right, there's like a little black thing with a little cross. That you can set up your own canvas. So if you wanted like A4 size, or if you wanted smaller, if you wanted square, then you can do that in here. We're not going to do that now. We're just going to use the screen size. But if you wanted to do that, it's as simple as pressing millimeters, centimeters, inches, and then typing it in depending on what size you want. But we'll just go to screen size. So if you click on screen size, and it will bring up a new canvas for you. So I'm just going to show you here. If you take your two fingers and you kind of pinch in and out, that moves your canvas in and out so that you can make it smaller and you can see it. Okay, so that's just taking your thumb and your forefinger and just pinching in and out. So it's basically like the grey bit behind is like a table. So you can imagine that's your table, and then the white piece of paper is either like your paper or your art journal. That's your substrate that you're working on. So that's kind of how you can envisage it. And and I've just made loads of marks there. You can kind of do this pinching thing where you kind of do that and then it puts it back to the size, but don't worry too much about that. You can just kind of position it how you want. So if you've got that, that's your canvas that we're going to work on. We're going to start with Kaiser's PDFs that she gave us in the membership. So you can use, if you've not got that, you can use your own like jelly print. If you've got a jelly print somewhere that you've got a photo of, or anything, any kind of artwork, anything that you've got photographed, you can use. I'm just gonna show you how to import it. So if you go press the gallery on the top left, so it's hard for me to show you where things are because I've screen shared my iPad. But if you go to the gallery on the top left and go back to the gallery page, and then you're going to go to import. So you see at the top right, you've got select, import, photo, and you've got a plus. So if you click on import, then that brings up your files. So I've got a file called digital assets, which I've put in my favorite, so it's easy to get to. But if you know where you've saved your PDF, then if you go to that, then you can find that for yourself. If you're not using that particular, like Kaiser's sheet, then like I say, you can, if you've got any files, then you can import those. And I'll show you how to import a photo as well. So if you've got a photo that you want to import instead. So I've got Kaiser's folder here, and then I've got her printables here. So I'm going to open that, and it's going to import for me, and it's importing into a file. And you'll see at the bottom here, I've got this thing called Page Assist. So I can just tap through, and then I've got all her pages of that PDF, and they're in there. So hopefully you've been able to do that. If I'm just going to go back to the gallery, okay, I can show you again if you need that, and I'll just give you some time to do it. If you haven't got those PDFs and you want to import a photo, I haven't actually done it from here. Okay, yeah. So you go to photo, that will bring up your Apple photo library. So I've got Procreate assets here, folder saved. So for example, if I went to jelly prints, then I could choose one of my jelly prints. And if I press on that, then that will import into a new canvas for me. So if you've not got Kaiser saved, but you've got like maybe a jelly print that you've scanned, or you've just got a photograph of something you could use as a starting point, then do that. Claudia, have you managed to figure out how to do that on Fresco? Amazing. Okay, are we all good? Are we all up to speed? Any questions right now? Okay, perfect. So if we go into the PDF from Kaiser, and we're going to choose one of the pieces, I think I'm going to go into the July ones. Oh yeah, no, I did do it on that. I'm just looking to see which one I'd tried. Okay, so you can choose any of the ones that you want because we're just going to do the same thing together. So it doesn't matter which one you choose. So if you go to this at the top left, you've got gallery and then you've got some icons. The first icon is a spanner. So if you tap on that and then tap on the add, which is the first one, and then we're going to copy the canvas. So at the bottom, you can press copy or you can press copy canvas. It makes no difference. So we're going to copy the canvas because we're not going to work in this file. We're going to go back and work on that file we started. So we're going to go back to the untitled one and we're going to work in here. And then we're going to go back to the spanner and we're going to press paste. Okay, so hopefully everyone can get to that stage. And then I'm just going to do that pinching thing again. And I'm going to do it with this. This is imported now. And at the top, we've got these little squares next to a color dot. So that's imported as our first layer. So imagine the white piece is our art journal page. And this jelly print is now stuck down. Well, it's not stuck down, but that's the piece we're working on. That's our first layer. So if we go back to the arrow,
Liz,
now, yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Where did
No, please
you
interrupt.
copy and or paste? Sorry, where did you paste the canvas when you came back here and you pasted it?
Oh, okay. So do you remember, excuse the ice cream van. Do you remember right at the beginning, we went to the plus here
Uh-huh.
and screen size and we started a canvas. So
Yes.
I just went back to that canvas that I started, but you can start a new one. But
Okay.
your basic, so you're copying it from your PDF and then you're going into the plus, go into screen start size to get a new canvas, go to the spanner and then paste.
There it is. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, is that okay?
Perfect.
So I'm just going to delete that one because I don't need it. Okay, so if we click on the arrow, then you'll see this little green toggle at the top. That allows us to rotate. So I'm going to rotate it. And then we've got these ones. Now you'll see at the bottom, it says you've got another little menu that's popped up. It says freeform, uniform, distort, and warp. So we want it on uniform. That means it's just going to keep it in proportion as we move it. So we want to pull it all the way out so that it covers the whole canvas because we're just going to use this as our background. And this is where you could play with putting another one in and you might want one side by side. You might not want just one full one, but we're just going to work like that for now. And then if you're at that stage and you're ready, we're going to go back and we're going to pick up another PDF, or you can import another photo. It's completely up to you. So I'm going back to the gallery. So press gallery in the top left, go back to your gallery. I'm going to click back on my printables and I'm going to choose this one. And I'm going to go to the spanner, copy, then I'm going to press gallery again. And then I'm going back into that artwork, that canvas that I'd started, that I've put this on. I'm just going to pinch so that I can see. And then I'm going back to the spanner and pasting it in. And then again, we can use that green toggle to turn it how we want to. Okay, now what I want you to do is at the top, next to that green dot, we've got these two squares. That's our layers. So click on that and you can see that you've got two layers now. So that basically means that, say, for example, we've got our art journal page, layer one. I'm going to rename it. So if you tap on the square and you go to rename, and then I'm just going to put print one, and that's just so that you can kind of keep an eye on when you've got lots and lots of layers. If you rename them, it just really helps. You get carried away, and most of the time I don't rename them, but then you're clicking on everything to see what's what, so it's really helpful if you can remember to rename them. In fact, I could probably do that as like red print, and then I remember, but I'm probably going to change the color. So that's my first one. Imagine that's like our first layer, it's stuck down, and then we've got this next collage piece that we want to put on. So that's our next layer. So to when you select the layer and then you press the arrow, that allows you to move or play with that particular layer. So sometimes you might forget and you might be working on something, but you're not actually on the layer you want. So it will come up with a little notification and tell you that you're not in the layer that you're trying to work on. So then you can remember to go back into the layers. So we want to work on this new layer that we've just brought in. And I'm going to show you how to cut a bit out, and then we can play with what we've done with some blend modes. So we are, so we can change this. I'm going to change this to swirl print, just so I've got an idea of what it is. Okay, so we've got our two layers, we've got them named, and now that we've got that one highlighted, we can go to the arrow to make sure we've got it. We can maybe make it a little bit bigger because we're going to play around with cutting some out. And then we're going to go to this tool, which is next to the arrow. It's called the selection tool. And we're going to make sure that we've got freehand at the bottom here, freehand highlighted, and we don't want anything else highlighted. That add one is fine at the bottom, but we don't want color fill on, because if you have color fill on, when you cut anything out, it will fill it automatically with color, which is great, but that's not what we want for now. So we want to, well, yeah, I'm going to show you how to cut a bit out, like as if you were playing with your collage piece of paper and you wanted to cut a bit out. This layer here, I'm just going to turn it off because I want to show you that when I'm on this swirl print layer and I want to cut a bit out, it doesn't matter if I have the lines outside of the print because there's nothing there. Okay, so when I put that layer back on, you can see that layer's there, but it's not actually there because we're not playing with that layer. We're playing with this one that says swirl print. So I'm just going to cancel that. So it means that when we're cutting out, we don't have to be precise. So if I just want to cut this section out here, I can just draw around it like that. I don't have to be really precise in making sure that I'm cutting, you know, it's specifically here. I hope that makes sense. It's quite difficult to explain, but I'll show you once I've cut it out what I mean. So we're just going to draw, like, take a little bit of it out. Okay. And once we've done that, we're going to go to the spanner and we're going to press cut. Okay. And then we're going to press paste. And it's just going to look like it's still together. But we've now got that cut out piece on a separate layer. So if I turn those layers off, so to turn the layers off, so this is what I mean, I get carried away and then I forget to tell you. So to turn the layers off, there's a little square next to your so you've got the name, you've got this N, which I'm going to show you what to do with, and then you've got this checkbox, and that turns the layers on and off. So it just helps you see what is in the layer you're working in, and it helps you so that you don't get confused. So we've still got these two pieces, but now they're on separate layers, and now we can play around with them. So this inserted image
Sorry,
is
Liz, how did you highlight it to cut it?
Okay, so let me go back. So if you want to go back, a really good quick tip is to two finger tap and that will take you back. But there's also, you see this section here, this is your paintbrush size, this is your opacity, and this will undo it. So you can either undo and redo with this, or you can 2-finger tap and 3-finger tap, and that will undo and redo. So let me just show you again. So let me turn that off. I'm just going to just bring it in again. And that was the other thing I meant to do, actually. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come back in here. Oh, everything's turned off. And I'm going to paste it back. What I meant to show you, so I'm really glad that you asked that, Rachel, is what I normally do is I swipe to the left. Should show you that again. Swipe. Oh, hang on. My iPad's frozen. I was just trying to do too many things too quickly. So what I would normally do, and I forgot that step, is if you swipe to the left, you can duplicate, okay? And then turn that layer off. And then if you press and hold it, it highlights and you can actually move it down. So that way, if I wanted to do what I'm just showing you now, Rachel, I wouldn't have had to re-import it because it would have been there. So I've cut it out, but actually now I've duplicated it so I could go back and try again. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this layer. So I've got it highlighted here with the arrow. I'm going to the selection tool, which is that little S ribbon next to the arrow. And I'm going to check that it's on
How have you highlighted it?
I haven't highlighted it. What do you mean?
Well, you said you highlighted it so that you could do something.
Oh, do you mean highlighted the layer?
Yeah.
So you just tap it.
Okay.
So that you're on that layer. Is that what you mean?
I don't know. I think I did my layer. I've covered the whole layer rather than just a little bit, so maybe that's why.
Okay, so have you managed the cutout section or not yet?
No, that's what I didn't know how to do the cutout section.
Okay, so have you got this a sheet in front of you, a full sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, and have you tapped on the layer to make sure you're on that particular layer?
Yeah.
And have you tapped the arrow and then you can make sure that you've selected it?
What arrow?
So at the top, you've got gallery and then you've got 4 icons.
That arrow. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So tap on the arrow. And if that highlights that whole sheet like it does on mine, you know that you've got that layer highlighted. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So now you want to go to the ribbon, which is the next to the arrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then anywhere on it, you can just draw and cut some out like that. So you can do any shape. It doesn't matter. And when you've done that, and you just bring it back to that grey dot. So draw a line anywhere, go around, and then you just join it back up to the dot. And then when you've done that, if you go to the spanner and you cut and paste, and then it will have cut it out.
Okay, yep, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Everyone else managing? So you've cut a little bit out, and then let's cut another bit out. So if I go to this, so if you go to your layer and then you click the arrow, then that will always select the layer you're on. So you'll be able to check which layer you're on. So this is the layer I'm on. So I'm going to cut a little bit more out so we can just have a practice. I'm going to go back to that little ribbon, and then I'm just going to, no, that's fine. I'm going to go back, meet my dot, and then spanner, cut, and paste. And there is a shortcut for cutting and pasting. You can drag 3 fingers down on the screen and it will bring up, I'll show you. You can drag 3 fingers down and it brings up a copy and paste menu. That's like a little shortcut. So I use that. But I think when you're just starting out and learning, it's easier to kind of remember, like, to just use these ones for everything, and then shortcuts can come later. So we've got a few pieces now. We can number them and rename them if we want to make it easier. I'm going to delete that because I don't want that's confusing. Okay, so let's put our bottom layer, that print that we first brought in, let's put that back. And now this is where we can play around with the blend modes. So I'm going to click my top layer and I'm just going to check that's this piece here. And I'm just going to position it where I want it positioned. So just play around with what you've cut out. Don't worry about what it looks like. Just kind of see where you might want it. So you're going to the layer, you're tapping on the arrow, and then you can just move it. You can pull it to make it bigger, smaller. Now, I quite like these white lines that are on the jelly print, and I'll show you how they look when we start playing with the blend modes. So you can be really precise, and I can show you how to use the selection tool to cut those out, but actually I quite like them. So far we've got two jelly prints, but we've got quite a few layers. So you can see now that it's as if you've taken a piece of paper, you've cut it up into bits, and you've kind of like positioned it on your art journal and you're moving them around. And that just helps us to be able to move things in different places without affecting what's underneath, just like we would if we were putting layers on our art journal. So I want to use this one here. So I'm making sure that I'm pressed this layer, it's selected. I've gone to the arrow to make sure that's the layer that I want. And now I'm going to go back into those squares at the top and I'm going to tap the N. Okay, so you've got the name of the image, then you've got a little N, and then you've got the tick, which shows you the layer. You can turn it on and off. So I'm going to click the N. So what happens is these modes will change how your piece looks, and that's where the fun is. So this is where you can just play around and see, do you want it lighter? It changes the color. So you can start to kind of get a feel for what you can do with these pieces and how they blend with the layers behind. So the more you import and the more pieces you put on, the more you can blend and play. So when I was doing this earlier, I really liked the way this, it's hard to show you. Let me just get a pencil. So I like the way this kind of section, see where I've put those green marks, you see like down here, I like those. And those are the white of the edge of the jelly plate. So this bit here, where this bit here, and pencil's a bit thick, and this bit here, I love those lines when you play with the blend modes. So that's why I quite like leaving those on. So you can play around, see what you like. That's hue. That's quite nice. There's just, I mean, I did this earlier and it looks completely different to what I was doing before. So you can just play around, choose whatever you like. I quite like it with the red and the orange. That's gone back to normal. The darker color if you want something a bit darker. So I quite like that. I'm going to leave that one on. You can also play with the opacity. So if you were going to go for something like that's normal, but actually we could knock it back by taking the opacity down. So there's quite a lot that you can do to play around with. So have a little play and then choose one of your other cutout pieces and do the same for that. So go into your menu and then just see what you like. Has anyone got any questions at this point? Are we all doing okay? Following along?
This is amazing. No questions, but I'm so excited.
Great. That is fantastic. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So the difference with Adobe Fresco, Claudia, which you've got. So if we've got this sheet that we've cut out, if I take it off the canvas like that, so you can see that it's going away, like as if it's over the table, there's like an overhang. Now, if I now tap my arrow, that, and then go back again, that's cut that off because it was off the canvas. So if you imagine that you've got a collage piece in your art journal and it's overhanging and you've taken the scissors and you've cut that bit off, when you tap the arrow, that's exactly what Procreate does. It cuts it. So if you want to preserve a piece, then duplicate it. So for example, if I don't want this piece at the top to change, but I want to move it and I only want that part, if I go back to my squares and I swipe to the left and duplicate it, I can turn that layer off so that I've got it later if I want it, go back, and then I can move it to there, tap the arrow, that is now gone. It's cut it off as if I've cut it with my scissors, but it doesn't matter because I've got that piece from earlier that I duplicated. So anything that you want to keep, you can duplicate it. And then you can turn it off. So you don't have to have it. That's what I love about the layers in Procreate, that you can import things, you can duplicate things, you can play with things, but you can turn them off so they're not actually in the composition, but they're there for later if you want to add them. And if you decide you don't need them, you just swipe to the left and click delete. And if you want to lock it in place so that you don't delete it by accident, you can just press that lock button and that will keep it so it won't delete by accident. So if you're doing something that is, really important.
Do you have a way of naming the layers? Because I can see why that would be quite important when you build up.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a case of like, I mean, when I did it earlier, I just called this like swirl 1, swirl 2. That's not what. You can go to, there's a little keyboard down here. Hang on, if I move my face out of the way. There's a keyboard there. And then if you go show keyboard, then you can type or you can handwrite like I did. Swirl print 1, swirl print 2, jelly print. I mean, it just depends really what you're working on. If you've got a flower, you can name it flower, so you'll kind of just find your own way of doing it. But yes, you can see how it just gets really confusing when you're working on multiple pieces. So let's go back to our gallery and to our PDF, and we can put in another one. I love this one so much. So I'm going to copy this one, go back to my gallery, go back to this page that I'm working on, spanner, and paste it in. And then you'll see that that's it. It's gone in where my where the last highlighted layer was. So if you just tap it, you can then, it's easier to do with your finger, but if you tap it and hold it, you can move it to the top and then you'll be able to see it. And then remember, pinch if you want to be able to see your full canvas. So that as well, when you're working on your layers, if you're looking at, let's say, let me just turn that off a sec. If I'm working on this one and then I want to look at this, well, I can't see it. So just do that pinch thing again, and you can just pinch your canvas and just move it to the side. And then that way you can look at these different blending modes and you can actually see, because otherwise if it's hidden behind this layer, because there's no way of moving this menu. So that's quite nice. So you see, it's so different. Like that's not got the swirl in it at all, but I really like that because I actually like I just like the colors. It just brings in a different color. I can make that bigger. I've not got any of the pattern, but I really like those colors. So it's just at this point, this is why it's so wonderful, because it's personal preference. So we all could be working on the exact same thing, but we'll all come out with something completely different because your likes are going to be completely different to my likes. And before, when I cut something out, I did this like gorgeous cut. So if I put that back in, I went to cut it and I cut out this like little section and I just really liked it. So I'm just going to 3-finger cut and paste. Oh, do you know what happened there? But that didn't work. Let's try it again. Maybe I wasn't on the layer that I thought I was on. No, I wasn't. See, that's why you have to check. So this is the little pop-up menu. I was in the wrong layer. So I've got to find that one. I think it was this one. Yeah. So I'm going to just take a little section. So when I did it this morning, so I'm going to 3-finger cut and paste. And then I've got that. I really like that. So I'm going to turn that one off. And there you go. You can see I really like that. It's just it's just a collage piece. And then I can go in and I can mess around and see what I like. And then I can also rotate it. And I could put it elsewhere and just move it around my page. So you've got that same sheet, but we've got loads of different things happening from it because the blend modes change it so much. So I quite like that. And then I've got some lines being echoed. So we've inserted another image. I'm going to put that back on the top. And I'm going to turn it around, pull it out. So for the moment, I'm just going to use the whole thing. So you can see that's covered everything. We can't see anything underneath. But when we go to our layers, everything's still there. So if I turn that layer off, you can see what we were working on before. So I've just now got this new collage sheet that I want to play with. And I'm going to put that over the top and I'm just going to mess with this. And what I love about this sheet is that, I mean, I love that. Look at that. It's incredible. You know, you might not love that, but for me, that is just amazing. It's really highlighted those marks and those shapes. And if I don't want it like that, I can cut that out. I could. So let's have a play with this. I'm going to leave it like that because I like it. Check that I'm on the right layer and I'm just going to cut half of it. Okay, spanner, cut, and then it stays up so you can paste it. Okay, so it has, well, that's interesting. I didn't know it did that. It's gone back to normal. I thought it would. So if I duplicate it, so let's turn that off. Okay, so now I've cut that off. I didn't know that that would go back to normal. I haven't. So I must have, when I've cut and pasted it before, I've cut it before I've changed the blend mode. So I've turned that off. So if I want this one exactly the same, now that I've cut it, I can just swipe, duplicate, and then it's underneath. That's why you can't see it. So if I go to my arrow and I can, oh, should be able to move it across. Right, there we go. I was on the wrong one. So I can just move it across, and then if I want to, let's say I want to turn it round, I can. Maybe I want to put it this way. Maybe I don't want all of it. So maybe I'll just pop some of it there. Remember, that's going to get cut off, the rest of it, when I click my arrow. So I can move it around, decide maybe I want it down there. Quite like having that space so that I've got those dark marks echoed. Maybe I want to make it a bit smaller. So I've got some difference there. I've got some smaller marks and bigger ones. And then I'm looking at this and thinking, well, I've got these swirls, but actually they're really prominent on the bottom right, but I haven't got anywhere else. So maybe I'm going to go back to one of these ones that I turned off and play around with that and see if I can put that somewhere else. So maybe I'll position that here, make it a little bit smaller, and then go back to the blend mode for that one and just play around with, like, that's quite nice. It's really subtle, but that's quite nice. So I'll just leave that there. Maybe I'm thinking now these kind of need knocking back a bit because they're quite dark. So I can go back in, like the more you add, the more you might decide you want to change it. So I'm going to go back to this maybe I'll just take the opacity down a little bit because I like it on colour burn, but it's just a bit dark. So I've just knocked it back with the opacity and I much prefer that. So I'm going to do the same with that smaller one. So go back, click on the little letters and just change the opacity. Now, the other thing that we can do, I'm going to go right down to the bottom to that first print layer. And I'm going to click on this magic wand. So you've got the spanner, we've used the ribbon, we've used the arrow, but we've not looked at this magic wand. Now there's loads and loads of things you can do here. But let's just have a look at this hue, saturation and brightness at the top. So if you look there, you can change the hue. So you can change the colour of it. And you might change the colour completely and actually think, oh, I prefer that. I really, really like that. So I'm gonna change it. I can't actually remember what it was before. I think it was somewhere around here. You might change the saturation, really knock it back. You might change the brightness. So again, you can just really play around with these different elements. And you can do that for other layers as well. So we might look at this one. And maybe we want to make that a bit brighter. That's that piece in the bottom left. Change the saturation. So you can just have a play with these different things. There's other things there. There's color balance. You can change the colors at the bottom. And there's curves. So that will change. So that's taking it really dull. So you can just have a play and change that. I'm going to just mess with this a bit. That's it, I prefer that. Okay, and I'm just going to change this colour because it's a little bit pink for me.
We have a comment in the chat. This is so much fun. It really is.
What was the comment?
This is so much fun.
Oh, great. It is so much fun. And this is like I said, I'm trying to keep it really simple. So we've not got too much. Yeah, please show what you've done. 100%. Stop share.
Here we go.
Oh, wow. That's fab.
I'll spotlight Claudia.
Yeah, Claudia.
I don't know how to
wow.
share it because I'm on my phone and I'm on my iPad.
That is fab.
So beautiful.
That's brilliant, Claudia. Well, you've done really well considering that you're working in a different program. So that's great. I love what you've done. This is looking very, very dull and I'm just going to change it up a bit so that we can have something more pleasing to the eye. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so we're playing around with all the different collage. We've got our layers. So there's a few things that I want to show you. Obviously, we've done nothing with brushes. So if you click on the brush, then you can just so that you can have a look. There's loads of different brushes. So if you go into painting and scroll down, and let's just get the Nico roll because that's quite a nice one. And then if you go into the little circle, that's your color palette. And at the bottom, just move me out of the way. At the bottom, you can look at it in different ways. That's the disc. You've got classic. Harmony will give you a harmonious color. You've got your value, so you can change the sliders and change the color like that. And you can also import your own color palettes. So we just click on the disc and then use the outer slider to choose your color, and then the inner slider gives you like the hue and the brightness, the darker color within that. You can press and I think, is it double tap or press and hold? Oh no, maybe, yeah, you can use 2 fingers like that to zoom in and make it bigger. And then I think you just, yeah, and then like that to go back out of it. So if you just can choose any color, I'm going to go for a lighter one. And then You can just do some kind of scribbles, just like you might do some writing or you might do some scribbling. So on the left-hand side here, you've got your slider that makes it bigger and smaller. So let's change, well, we'll play with that and then I'll show you like a pencil. So that changes the size of your paintbrush. This changes the opacity. So 100% is obviously really opaque, and then the opacity will be less so. So that's quite nice. You can just play around with that. And then the arrows, like I said before, undo and redo. So you can play around. I like the Nico roller because it's kind of grungy and it's got some spaces in it. So it's not like unless you press really hard, it's not like a solid mark. So that's quite fun. And again, another thing, you'll just be there for hours playing around with the brushes. But if we go to sketching and just choose a pencil, you can just choose 6B pencil. And then you can have a go at just kind of doing some marks, some scribbles. You might want to do some asemic writing. So that will give you some texture within your art journal piece. And make sure, so I have no idea what I've just done that on. I've done all that on that print layer. Now that's no good because if I want to erase anything, so that's actually good that I can show you. So we'll go to the eraser. The eraser has all the brushes in it that the brush does. So you can match. So if you want to erase something, so I was on the Nico roll, so that's in the painting section. So scroll down to the Nico roll. If I want my eraser, sorry. No, I wasn't sure if somebody had a question. If I want my eraser to erase in the same kind of way as the brush mark, then I will choose the same eraser. Now you can see I'm erasing everything because those marks are on that print at the bottom. So that is why we want to have different layers. So I'm going to delete all that. So now I've got nothing. I'm going to go back to this one. So now I want to go scroll up to the top and I'm going to press the plus. So I've got a new layer. And now when I do my marks, sorry, I'm on the eraser. When I do my marks, I can go to my eraser and I can rub them out and nothing underneath is going to erase. So that's why we want those layers separate. So whenever you're starting to do kind of something different or something new, put it on a new layer. And then that way you can erase, you can play around with it and you're not affecting anything else that you've done before. So I'm going to just do some marks like that. Now, this is the smudge tool. So you've got the brush, the smudge, the eraser. The smudge also is all the same brushes. And what the smudge tool allows you to do is, say, for example, you've done a drawing like we've done here, like if I just turn some of these off, then you'll be able to see it better. So if you've done some marks here, so the smudge is like, you know, when you're drawing with a pencil and you've got so you're using a pencil and then you use that to kind of like smudge and blur it in. So that's basically what the smudge tool does. So it'll blur it. So that's great. You can use it with all the different brushes. And what it's also good for, I'm just going to put all these back on. So it's going to look a mess because I don't know what's what. So let's say we've got this piece here and we want that to kind of blend in. Let me just turn some of these off. I can't find that. That's the one I want off. Okay, let's use. See, this is where it gets complicated and I don't know which is which. Okay, so we're going to use this. So let's say I've got this collage piece and I want it to blend into the background. So if I go to my smudge tool and then on the left-hand side here where you've got your brush tool, you've got this little square, that's the color picker. So if you tap that, you can actually move it around the screen and you can choose a color. from the piece. So that helps you keep your piece really harmonious, because whereas I just picked up that grey, you see those horrible grey marks. Let me get rid of those. If I'd have chosen a colour from in here, like for example, this one, if I'd have picked up that, then gone to, let's go to a new one. Let's delete that. Gone to a new layer, and I've got my 60 pencil. Now those marks are going to look much better because they're harmonious, because I've chosen a colour that's already within my piece. So I'm going to go back to this piece here. I'm going to go to my smudge tool. I can choose any brush. So let's just go with this the acrylic brush. And then you can see that what I'm doing is I'm pulling the paint from this collage piece and I'm pulling it into the painting. So I could take the green in like that if I want. So I can kind of blend it and get rid of those harsh lines so it doesn't look like a cut piece of collage anymore. And I can just play with putting the red, putting the green, just kind of tapping it in. Now, obviously, if I choose a different smudge tool, so let's choose the round brush, that's going to give me a different effect than what I just had. If I do something like the spray paint, again, right, that's massive. So that's really subtle. That's really nice. I like that. And then you can just, like I've got this way, I'm pulling the green into the red. This way, I'm pulling the red into the green. Can you see what I mean? Makes sense. So it's just completely changing what I'm doing, but it's allowing me to use that collage piece and just blend it. I might want to keep these straight lines here. So I don't like what I did at the beginning with this brush here, but actually I really like it with the spray paint. So I can just swirl, I can tap, and that just gives me something completely different. And then I might want to layer over that again. But that's sorry?
Sorry to interrupt again.
No.
What you have picked to enable you to do that? Because I'm trying to do that with the smudge tool.
Yeah.
You need to have certain layers picked.
Yeah, it depends which layer you want to be on. So I chose this piece here, this collage piece.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah.
So, and then look, I can move it around, and then I can move it around if I don't want it there, and I can change it. I can put it wherever I want.
Can you mix all layers with each other? Can you mix all layers with each other, or
yeah? So that piece, even though can you see how? So I wasn't selecting the green layer, but I can still bring the green. Can you see how I'm dragging the green in?
Yeah.
So even though that layer isn't the layer I'm on, I can still use that and drag it in.
Okay.
Or I can drag the red out onto the green. So it's just a way of blending the piece that you're working on into the piece. And then again, if you go back to your blending mode, then it's going to change again. So you can continue, look at that. I mean, I love that. It just completely changes. So there's like endless possibilities, because you can just keep playing until you get something that you like. I mean, that's so fun. So that's how you kind of use the smudge tool. And then obviously we're nearly to time, but I just wanted to kind of show you the cutting out of the words and that kind of thing. And another thing as well. So you can, if you swipe up from the bottom, you get your dock of so you can access your photos and your files. So if I want to bring in a photo, and this is really really helpful. So let me go back into Procreate. So pull up from the bottom, and if I press and hold my photos, oh no, right, if I press and hold my photos and drag it, I can move it and bring it into Procreate. So if I let go, I've just got this small menu of my photos. Now I've got a album which I've called Procreate Assets, and I've just started to make folders of things like mark making, letters, jelly prints that I can use and bring in. So I've searched in my photo library for all this writing. So obviously, as I said before, you can scribble or you can do your racemic writing, you can do some drawing, but if you wanted to, you could bring in some texture of some writing. So you can bring in your photo library, and then I've got loads of photos of like my kids writing. So if I go and find one of my kids writing and I press and hold, so hang on, I just want to tap it and drag it, okay, and then let go, and that will import into this piece, okay, and I can do it with as many pieces as I want. So let's say I want another one, I'm going to tap it and I'm going to drag it, but what I've got to do is just unhighlight the arrow, okay, and then I'm going to tap and drag another piece. And you can do this as well for textures. So I've just called this one surface textures, and I've got things like bricks, I've got brick walls, I've got tree textures, I've got anything with kind of like lines, and I've just gone through, and that's a collage piece that I did where I used some bricks and some modeling paste and painted over it with ink. That would make an amazing piece to bring in. So you can go through your library and you can use anything textural, anything with like light geometric patterns, lines. This is a brownie, like this would look amazing, bringing this texture in. So you can do that. So then just swipe to the side to get rid of that. So now I've got these on a separate layer. So I'm just going to tap them, bring them to the top. So you just press and hold, drag to the top, set that down. Just because if it's at the top, it's just easier. Okay, I'm going to turn one of them off. And I've got that highlighted, so I can move it around. And again, I'm just going to play with the blend mode so that I've got some texture in my piece. The top one, I really like these ones where it kind of looks like it's outlined the with the writing kind of inside like that. I love it. So you can just play around, and then you can play around with the opacity, and then that just gives you some texture without even having to have like you do the writing, if that makes sense. So I might just put that down there. If I turn it round, you're not going to be able to read what it says. And then I've just got this added texture of writing. So you can do that with the writing. You could do that with, let's put like this brick wall in. Again, you can play around. I mean, something like that is so subtle, and that just gives, it's amazing. I love it. So I'm going to turn that round and put it there. It kind of echoes this line down here that I've got there. So I'll just straighten that up. And then you can just add, and then if you go into your layers, you can play around with where they go. So I can put that, I can move this down, this brick wall, and just play around with how it looks when I put it under things. So that will change again. So you've got so many different capabilities of where you might put it, how it might look. And then if there's a bit, so on here with this brick wall, I don't really like this bottom section here. So if I go to, so I'm on that layer and go to the eraser, let's go into something like the airbrush. and then I can just erase it because it's on a separate layer. It's not going to erase anything else. So I'm just erasing some of that, and I can just have as much of it as I want. If I just want the lines, then I'm just erasing the actual brickwork. So I've got some of those in. Right, I realise we're really running out of time, but I just want to show you the cut and paste of the words. There's a few things in the chat as well. So if you go back to gallery, I provided some affirmations. So again, if you go to your import button and then you find those if you've saved them. For me, they're in my folder, and then you just click on that and it'll import it in. Spanner, copy. And then if we go back into our artwork and paste, and then it is just the same as what we were doing before with our cutting out. So make sure we're on the right layer. I would always just bring it to the top just because I just think it's easier. I know what I'm working with. Oh, I've just grouped that by accident. Don't worry about that. Okay, so remember, we go to the selection tool. Now we don't need to be really, oh no, we do want to be precise with it, but this is how we can do it. So if you tap, and then before we were drawing, but actually you can just tap and then it will take it. So if I tap there, then it will tap to, it's not working now, it's because of the angle that I'm at. It's quite hard. So you can just tap to the points. And then it will select it, and then you can cut and paste. Or you can duplicate. So where has it gone? So then if you go into the layer, then you'll see that that bit's being cut out. And if I turn that off, you can see where it's being cut out. Now, if you don't want to cut it out, you can duplicate it. Use that menu that I showed you. So I'll do that. And make sure I'm on this layer, which is the affirmation sheet. So I'll just show you again. So you take the selection tool, and if you tap it, so before we were drawing, you can draw, or you can tap. And then that will just kind of give you straighter lines. If you use your 3 fingers, pull down, then there's a duplicate. So you've got cut, copy, copy all, duplicate. So if you duplicate rather than cut and paste, then it will keep it there. So you've got 2. So that keeps it. So it's completely up to you how you want to do it. It doesn't matter if you cut and paste because you've got it as your PDF, which you can always bring back in, or you can duplicate it. So we'll turn that off, and then that's it. That's how you cut it out. And then you can just go to the arrow, you can position it. If you want to cut this section out, so I treat myself with the same care I offer others. I want to cut that off for others out so I can move that around. So I'm just going to make sure I'm in the right layer, and I'm going to go back to my selection tool. If you use 2 fingers to go like that, then you can zoom in and zoom out. So you kind of like pinch in and pinch out. And then I can just go like that. And because this is on a separate layer, I don't need to be precise now. So then I can cut and paste. And now I've got that on another layer. So those 2 are then separate. So then I can move it around. Now, if you want to tidy it up, you just go to the eraser, choose a brush that's small. So if we go to the round brush and just make it really small. Oh, just make sure I'm on the right layer. And then you can just erase it. And again, this is why we're on a separate layer to the layer to the others, because now we can erase this. We're not affecting anything else. We're just erasing this one layer. And then you can just make it neater if you want. Oh, that's not working because I've got to go on that layer. and then you can just erase that white bit. If you want it to be straight, there is like a trick. So if I erase this, if I press and hold, then you can then it gives you a straight line. So it does it with the eraser and it does it with your brush. But I can go over all these things again. I know it's a lot to take in. So that's how you put your words on. And then there's one other thing which is exactly the same. So if you've got something like a sheet like this, so this is a printable that I got from somebody else, and I can go to this. Again, I can copy it. So I've imported it, I've copied it, I'm going into my journal page and I'm pasting it in, and then I want to cut it out. So I'm just going to cut it really roughly with my selection tool. I'm going to cut and paste, and I'm going to turn off that layer so I've just got my flower, and then I'm going to go to my arrow and put it where I want. I can make it smaller. If I want that same one, swipe to the left, duplicate, swipe to the left, duplicate. They'll all be stacked on top. So just tap on the layer to move it, and then you've got a few different ones. And then again, you can play with your blend modes to see what you like, and you don't have to worry necessarily about getting rid of the white outline. But again, if you want to, you can just use your eraser for that if you want to get rid of it. But you can just have a play with your blend modes and see. So that's quite nice. So just put those on. Some different things. And then you can play around with the size where you want them. And again, that's on top. So I might want to take it above. I mean, actually, it needs to go below, doesn't it? Because that's at the bottom there. So take that above and it'll go over it. So you can move your layers so that things are on top and underneath. So I think we've covered a lot. And hopefully you've got lots of new ideas and new information on how to create a journal page. I think there was some things in the chat. Let me just have a look at what you guys are saying. Okay, brilliant. Sarah said you've done tutorials before, but nothing like art journaling, so it's been really interesting. Amazing. I hope that you find it helpful and I've not gone too fast or too complicated or too much.